This is Joyce Tice at the History Center on Main Street, and I'm talking to Bruce Dart, our local photographer and a member of the American Legion. He's going to talk to us about the history of the American Legion in Mansfield.
Thank you. My personal history evolved because my father, Doug Dart, was the Legion commander for the longest time since the Legion was founded. He was commander for 16 years.
Wow.
And he got me involved with it, which I was very thankful for. But since then, I've learned a lot more about the American Legion.
I should think so.
And we had several things. The early Legion guys put together a board that had the names painted on it of all the past commanders of the Legion, which was pretty impressive. In 2008, on the 90th anniversary of the armistice of World War I, we refurbished and rededicated the World War I memorial in the center of town. It was started by Harold Strait, who was one of our World War I veterans. He's also one of the founding members of the Mansfield American Legion Post.
Okay.
And after my father passed away, I moved up, and in the last 4 years I've been commander of the American Legion Post.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's nice to have that family tradition.
And I'm proud to carry on that legacy. It's something. At the end of World War I, at November 11th, 1918, 11/11, 11th hour, the whole 9 yards with that.
I think how many people got killed between 10 and 11.
Yes.
There were a lot.
A lot of the people, in researching all this, I find a lot of the people who died got killed in some of the most intensive battles of the war just before it ended.
Exactly. Terrible.
And it was awful, that they died and the war was over a week later. It's like, no, that's not right.
Think what the families went through.
I know. Anyway, in November of 1918 is the armistice, and what's now Veterans Day used to be Armistice Day to recognize that. In December, the following year, there was a big push to form the American Legion, and early or middle December is when all this kind of culminated. And I found this out because we found the charter that had all the original names on it and the date the post was chartered.
Wonderful.
And we have that framed, and it's up in the Richmond Township building where we meet.
Great.
But they applied for membership as a charter, as a post, in December of 1919, and it took exactly a week to get that approved.
Nothing takes a week.
Nothing takes a week. I was astounded when I found that out. They were chartered within a week, before the end of December in 1919.
Amazing.
And that leads into the other thing that you and I had talked about, the fact that we are coming up in 2019 on the 100th anniversary of the American Legion. And I wanted to put a booklet together of the names of the World War I people. But as I started to say, the 100th anniversary of the armistice, of course, would be 2018, but 19 with the Legion for another reason. And since we rededicated that memorial, I have tried to find information on all the people whose names are on there. It's just names to most people, and I wanted to find out about them and tell some of the stories.
Exactly.
And it's amazing what some of these people have done. Now, there are names on there that we can recognize. Harold Strait is a notable example because he owned the building where that memorial first was.
What a coincidence.
And he believed in it. He personally paid to have it painted on there several times to perpetuate this whole thing. And Harold, one of the things that I've tried to follow up on are some of the contributions of some of these folks. They've been outstanding citizens in Mansfield, and they've made a major impact on the community and surrounding area over the course of the years.
Absolutely.
And Harold is no exception, or he's a shining example even. His perseverance and his insistence in the Appalachian Thruway organization got the bypass around Mansfield. Some of them argued that that was a good thing, others didn't. It did take approximately 7,000 vehicles a day out of Mansfield, and so some people were thankful for that.
Well, we know what it was one time the highway was closed, and huge tractor trailers were going down Main Street for hours.
It tied up traffic.
5 miles an hour.
Anyway, two of the names on that World War I memorial are Gerald N. Austin and John F. Cox. And Gerald Austin was killed in World War I, and John Cox contracted influenza and died as a result of that. And so the American Legion Post in Mansfield is named the Austin Cox Post, Austin-Cox. And there are quite some stories about those two guys, and it's wonderful to recognize two of them, and their names are on the memorial, along with other names like Warren L. Miller, who not only served in World War I, but was a prominent educator. He became a teacher. He became
principal.
I think he was also
superintendent.
Well, yes, I know he was principal and superintendent. He was involved, maybe because he was principal at the time, with some of the ag program. I know my uncles were involved in that with the farm, and and I saw a picture that had him in there. But the 15 charter members of the Mansfield Austin Cox American Legion Post are Herbert Peterson, who is another prominent person.
Judges.
Donald.
T.W. Judges.
And also Wade Judge.
Sure.
Donald Hord was a son of J.S. Hord, who was another prominent guy in this area. Ransom Keeney, John W. Doane. I think Doane was a prominent physician in this area. Robert Palmer, Harry Taylor. Harry Taylor was involved in, and another one, Charles Ross, were involved in the formation of the first bank here that is now First Citizens.
And Harry was also with the hardware store and founder of the Twain Theater.
Exactly.
Co-founder.
Exactly. And these are all cool things that,
people we know who left a mark on our town.
Absolutely. William Kilgore, Fay Kilgore, Guy Brown, Anson Smith, Ronald Kitchline, Ralph Casper Gillette, Wade Judge, and J.H. Hatfield. Now, some of these I don't know too much about.
Well, John Hatfield was, I think he was the one who was the sheriff of the county.
Okay. And that's really cool. And that's another reason why I wanted to do a commemorative booklet with these. Casper Gillette, not only one of the charter members of the Mansfield American Legion Post, he graduated from Mansfield High School, went to Mansfield Normal School prior to going in the service. He was wounded slightly once and had the distinction of being the only man in the normal school class in 1919 to see service in France.
Wow.
And he was one of the charter members of the American Legion Post. And we talked a little bit too, rather jokingly, about the confusion between the VFW and the American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Okay, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, in order to belong to that, you have to have served in a foreign war, on foreign soil. And the American Legion has to have a service during a time of war, but you don't have to have served on the foreign soil.
Okay.
If you served during that time period, then you're eligible to be part of the American Legion. Mm-hmm. I felt rather strongly that anybody who served honorably ought to be able to be in the Legion, but the powers that be don't quite see it that way.
Okay.
But anyway, the Legion has a pretty strong history, and when you look at some of the names of the people who have been commanders, Bert Francis, Max Milliron, Ken Brace, John Baines, George Bloom.
All teachers.
George Bloom Sr., his son is now a member of the post, George Jr. George Sr. was a member for 12 years, or he was commander for 12 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay, my dad was commander for 16 years. I don't know that I'll break the record. I've only had 4 so far. I don't know if I can go that much
12
longer.
more.
Yeah. Warren Miller, Leo Bailey, whom we talked about, Marty Barrett, Oliver Richard Bartlett, Bob Bartlett, Tom Fair, Chester Bailey, our good friend,
Absolutely.
Bob Messinger, Max Colgrove. These are all people who are past commanders of our American Legion.
And they're people that we know well in Mansfield's history and functioning.
Absolutely. So that kind of heritage is something that we're proud to continue the legacy, and that's the reason why it would be important, to me at any rate, to compile a commemorative booklet of these names of people who served in World War I. That would be awesome. And during the project, when we renovated that memorial, we got people come forward that said, well, my grandfather was on there, and another lady contacted me and she said, well, I'm a descendant of Victor Bartlett, whose name is on that memorial. And it turns out that Victor Bartlett is a descendant of a Josiah Bartlett, who happened to be one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. I thought that was awesome.
Well, there are also some people that I'm aware of that are not on the memorial. Jim McConnell is one. Now, Jim, he was later a Cornell University professor. He was Assistant Secretary of Agriculture under Ezra Taft Benson, lived next door to me as a kid. He was in the war. He got on his ship. They got halfway across, the war ended, and they turned around. But he's not on the memorial, and I wonder if he if he might have enlisted in New York State or something.
That is possible, and that's probably how they made the criteria. They wanted to recognize the people who left here from Mansfield and from Covington, Richmond, and Sullivan Townships, and if they weren't from there when they started out, then they weren't on this particular memorial. Our hometown banners, where we're recognizing all of the veterans, if they came back and lived here, worked here,
Grew up here,
any of those things are all viable criteria for our banners around town, but it's not the same kind of criteria that they use for that World War I memorial.
And we're kind of running out of time here, but the banner program is something that is a project of the VFW. Is that American Legion?
Yes.
American Legion.
Yes, it is. The Legion and the VFW. The VFW contributed financially heavily to a lot of the sponsorship to help make that happen. So that has been a thing where our VFW and the Legion have been working hand in hand on a lot of these kinds of things, and it's wonderful to have that kind of cooperation for veterans.
Yes. Well, we're going to wind this one down. We'll do a longer one later, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this booklet and this information progress.
You're going to be a big partner, so that'll be good.
Well, I look forward to that. I've been working on it for a few years, too, and I'm really looking forward to a collaboration.
It makes sense for Mansfield. It really does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome. Thank you.